shall I compare to a summer day?
Hi everyone, good morning. Welcome back to the Highlight family. I am here by myself today, and today I'm going to be sharing things that I learned after getting the diagnosis of gestational diabetes with my second. So, long story short, I have two children 14 months apart. The first and second labor were totally different. Pregnancies were similar but also different. So with my second, around 28 or so weeks, I took the glucose test, failed it. Took the second glucose test, which is like 100 milligrams of sugar. It was terrible, but I took that and I also failed that one as well. So they gave me the diagnosis of gestational diabetes. And with that, the entire rest of my pregnancy was completely changed, completely different. I had to do things way different. So I had to change my eating drastically. I had to poke myself 4 times a day, right when I woke up, before I ate, and then every time before I ate and when I woke up, I had to check my blood sugars. And for me personally, I was diet controlled, so I didn't have to take any medicine to help me. But nevertheless, it completely changed the last how many ever weeks until I was 40 weeks pregnant. So when I first got the diagnosis, I had no idea what I was doing, what I was looking for. I just remember myself like going on YouTube and trying to find people who had it, who I could relate to, because honestly, I did not know anyone who had gestational diabetes, and I was quite concerned at the moment just because I had no idea about what any of this was. And I remember my doctor telling me like, you have gestational diabetes, and I'm like, huh? I have what? So I think right away I started meeting with a nutritionist and like very quickly had to start drawing my blood every day so I could get my blood sugars. And thankfully for me, I know this isn't the case with everyone, but my fasting blood sugars were really good. It was just more so about what I was eating. So in that, I really had to learn how to eat, and I really had to learn how to eat healthy and correctly. So protein was a big issue for me during pregnancy. Like, I really did not crave meat. I just kind of had an aversion to it. So I think that was like my number one thing that I needed to include. So getting this diagnosis, I had to include that. So with every meal, I made sure to add fats, protein, and like a small amount of carbs. You're still able to eat carbs, it's just like a really, really, really small amount. So when I got this diagnosis and I had to like completely change the way I was eating, it was like a very big shock to me. I'm like, it literally like changed my world so much, because I wasn't like paying attention to what I was eating. I was just eating whatever I was craving, pregnancy cravings. Yeah, so that was like definitely the number one thing, was that I had to change my food drastically. Doesn't mean that I had to cut off everything. I just had to make sure that I was eating enough protein to balance out the carbs, and also including a lot of fiber in my diet as well. I always tell myself that having gestational diabetes during my second pregnancy was a blessing in disguise, because honestly it taught me a lot about my body and the way that I was eating, and it caused me to really be aware of how foods affect my body, how foods affect my blood sugar, because diabetes does run in my family. Like, my grandparents have it, and it was like a wake-up call. Like, man, I don't want to get diabetes. Like, thankfully gestational diabetes for most people goes away after you deliver, but it was like a wake-up call. Like, man, I do not want to have this for the rest of my life. Like, yeah, that was hard. Like, even doing it for 15 weeks and taking my blood sugars consistently, that's dedication and hard work right there. So if you get diagnosed, don't be afraid. I know it seems like a lot of hard work, but trust me, you are going to learn so much about yourself in this process, in the way that you eat, that it will be very worth it. And plus, you're taking care of yourself, you're taking care of your baby, and you're making sure like you're getting adequate protein, which in my first pregnancy, I wasn't really concerned about that, because why would I be, It just wasn't on my radar. So it honestly was a blessing in disguise, because I learned so much about how my body processed sugar. And even after labor, even though it went away, I'm still conscious about what I'm putting into my body and making sure I get the adequate protein, veggies, fiber, and staying away from the processed high carbohydrate foods. Okay, one other thing that I learned is I hate taking the glucose test. It is so disgusting to me. In my pregnancies in the past, I have been very, very nauseous, like for the first 20 weeks. And then with my first, it was like the first 15 weeks. But when I had to take the glucola test, I hated it so much. And I know people like can stand it usually, but I could not. So honestly, this is not sponsored, but for any of you moms who are taking the glucose test, this is not sponsored at all, I promise you. The fresh test, talk to your provider if you can do that. Honestly, it tastes like a lemonade, like a super sweet lemonade, and it's actually really good. It's not syrupy. You just mix the drink into your own water, which is nice. So it was honestly kind of refreshing. It was very, very sweet, especially for the 100-gram one, but I would definitely recommend and ask them. But yeah, I hate the glucose test, and honestly for my next pregnancy I might just go ahead and do the finger pricks instead of that, just to bypass that. Even though it's for 2 weeks 4 times a day, honestly I feel like I would rather do that than drink 50 to 100 grams of sugar. But yeah, so I guess going into my pregnancy, gestational diabetes didn't really affect my baby. She was still growing normally. My blood sugars never really got insanely high unless I was eating like a waffle and maple syrup and without much protein. So thankfully I'm blessed in that area that I was really able to be constrictive on what I'm eating and making sure I have everything that I need. So my blood sugars didn't really get that high, and I was diet controlled, so I think that really helped me. But that's just my experience. Obviously I don't have experience taking medicine. So all that to say, I just want to know that if you get the diagnosis of gestational diabetes, you are not alone. You will get through this, it will pass, and you are going to learn so much about yourself that you would have never known if you never had to go through something like this. And lastly, it has really taught me, even after postpartum, the only thing that they really had to do was take my baby's blood sugar just to make sure that was all normal, take my blood sugar, and that was normal. So after delivery, I was able to eat what I wanted. I was able to have apple juice after I gave birth. So that was really nice, because for the last 15 or so, 12 to 15 weeks, 12-ish weeks, I think, I really couldn't. So yeah, it was nice. Even after postpartum, like having gestational diabetes, the only thing also that I really needed to do was go and check if I still had diabetes after I delivered, which I opted out of the glucola drink and I just did a hemoglobin A1C twice and it all came back normal, so we thank God for that. But yeah, I'm just thankful that I had it, because now, even now after I had her, I'm so aware of what I'm eating and I want to increase the amount of protein and decrease the amount of carbs. So this is just gonna lead to an overall better lifestyle at the end of the day. It was a blessing in disguise. Was it hard? Yes. Were there times that I wanted to quit? Yes. I guess I will just share with you my favorite foods that I did eat when I was pregnant was the Kind frozen bars. Those were really, really good. They might spike your numbers more than mine, or they might be less than mine. I know everybody responds differently, but these were like the perfect amount of carbs, the perfect amount of sugar, protein, fiber. They're so good. I loved the mint ones. So those are the Kind frozen mint bars, and you can get them from Target. I also enjoyed the Yasso bars with like string cheese. So there's definitely ways to like enjoy an ice cream or enjoy something, but not to the extent of like, I'm gonna go to Cold Stone and get the biggest ice cream, you know? It has to be more restricted than that. There is still ways to enjoy, so don't be afraid. You're gonna do great. If you have gestational diabetes, I wish the best for you. And even if you do have to take medicine, everything will be okay. Just stick to the plan and try to make yourself the most healthiest you can and pick the best foods that you can. Thank you guys for watching. I hope this video was helpful. I know for me, when I got the diagnosis, I had no idea where to look, no idea where to turn, because none of my friends had it. My mom never had it. I didn't know anyone who had it, so I felt so alone. So I hope this video brings you comfort, and if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them down below, and don't forget to subscribe, like this channel, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you. Bye.